I've been a part of the construction of a lot of housing that is mixed income. And I've always had in mind that I needed to focus on young people who were starting out with their lives, so that they have a place to begin. It may not be the place where you end up, but a place to start, because you're getting that first job and that first opportunity, and you're moving out of your parents' house, first whatever, everything's the first. So I focus very much on that. I have a 21-year-old daughter, so it's very much on my mind.
Okay, all right. And if you are elected as mayor, you will be the second African American and the first woman, which kind of puts a little bit of pressure on you to maybe mentor or engage women or African Americans. How will you provide an opportunity or resources for people in those categories to see you as a mentor?
Well, one of the things that I've always done, and I would be able to expand that as mayor, is I've always had lots and lots of interns, not just in the summer, but all year round. And at some point, it became an economic necessity because we had so many layoffs. They were keeping us alive. But to have a vigorous internship program and to be able to target high school students and college students so that they can get some real life experience to be able to put on their resume, and then to get out there and spend time with people. I've done that for the last 11 years and even before, and I'll continue to do that.
I want to know a little bit more about you personally, if you don't mind me asking. So one of the things that I found very interesting and sort of fascinating about you is that you converted to Judaism, correct? And so that's very unique for an African American woman who's from Ohio, whose father and mother were heavily involved in the civil rights movement. Do you think that might be an issue for maybe the African American community or Latino community that's overwhelmingly Christian in Los Angeles, or do you think it won't be an issue at all?
No, I don't think it'll be an issue at all. I mean, for one thing, this is a nonpartisan race, and we're not running on a religious platform. I'm running because I want to serve, and I think for people who are people of faith, our goals are probably very similar. And if you look around the walls here, and not only in this room, but you see that I'm very welcoming and open to people of all backgrounds and all faiths. So, no, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Okay. And so if there was sort of a takeaway from your campaign or one thing you wanted to express so people really understood who you were and why you should be mayor and why you will be sort of the opposite of that city insider, what would that one thing?
I think the takeaway would be this. I have always looked to the community first to accomplish all that I have accomplished. I look to the community for support, for momentum, for consensus, for shaping my thought process. And so I'm not a typical, I hate the word politician, but I'm not a typical politician who engages in transactional politics to the exclusion of the communities that I represent. I look to the community first, and if there's any takeaway from that, I would be that kind of mayor. I intend to be that kind of mayor, where I look to the community first for input, impact, and to keep me grounded in reality.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Now we're giving you more of Jan Perry. Let's go back to the recent Southern Christian Leadership Conference Candidate Forum at Mount Gilead Baptist Church in South Los Angeles. Here are some previously unseen cuts of Miss Perry taking questions during that event.
Much has been said and written about the current and looming LA pension issues. What do you propose to do as mayor to preserve the viability of the pension system? And let's go with Ms. Perry, since she's on the end, and we'll work back this way.
Okay, great. I've said this, and thank you for the question, and I've said this time and time again. I want to be honest with our employees about where we are and where we stand and what's at risk. When people retire, I want them to be able to get a pension, and I want people to continue working, but we have had to lay off people, we have had to furlough them, and we have had to early retire them. And it's caused a drop in our ability to deliver core city services. Police, fire, sanitation, planning, city attorney. I think there's a city attorney here in the room tonight who said, we need more city attorneys just to get the work done. These things are mandated by our city charter. We are required to provide those services. What we need to consider is that the city needs to get out of the business of what it does not do best. We have a convention center. We may get a football team in the stadium. We might. And if we do, if we move forward on building a new convention center, we should get out of that business and make sure that our employees are treated fairly. But find somebody who has expertise in bringing conventions here to the city, who can bring even more revenue here for us, more revenue to our general fund, so that we can keep the people we have working, and to make sure that while they may have to work longer and they may eventually retire with less, they'll be able to keep their jobs and stay employed. So we'll need our employees to pay more for their pension costs and their health care costs. And it's a hard thing to say, but it needs to be said.
Next question. Now that the Los Angeles Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, is no longer available, nor tax increment financing to spur economic development in poor neighborhoods, what vehicles or instruments would you use for economic growth?
And I want to, as mayor, create and develop an economic development entity that will capture new revenue, whether it's transit occupancy tax or a way to look at property tax revenue and leverage it again in areas where there is no growth, to bring the growth and move it into other communities. It will be a hybrid organization, a public-private partnership where the city will have a seat, private sector will have a seat, workforce investment board representatives will have a seat, social service providers will have a seat, people who serve to push a community forward will have a seat, so we can develop strategies that actually work, because we've lost a great tool to move South Los Angeles forward. Not only was it through redistricting, but the loss of the redevelopment agency, so we've had a double hit. And so I want to replace that with a vigorous strategy to push us forward.
And now, the candidate's closing statement.
We've made a lot of progress. I've shared with you the work that I've done, but I didn't drill down on the details. The grocery stores on Central Avenue, because people need to eat, people need to deal with their health issues, childhood obesity. We hadn't had a grocery store in South Los Angeles that was new, and in fact, some had left, Ralph's at Vernon and Figueroa. And while these grocery stores on Central Avenue are independently owned and operated, they're still grocery stores, and people still need to eat. People need jobs near where they live, a transportation system. I have a 21-year-old daughter. She doesn't even want to own a car. She can't even imagine owning a car. Even if we don't want to get out of our cars, we have to fight to build a rail system and back it up with buses, and back those buses up with dash buses in people's communities, so that we can get more people out of their cars. Let's focus on the young people and build a city for the future, and give parents choices as to how their children are to be educated. To not desert LAUSD, to stand with them, to fight. I said I was at 88th and San Pedro today, celebrating the opening of a new high school that I helped to locate and to bring Reckitt Park facilities to, but to give parents choices and to create opportunities for children to go to places like the Accelerated School at Martin Luther King, and then graduate and go to a 4-year college, an Ivy League school. Everybody's child should have a chance to compete. And as your next mayor, I want to fight to make sure that everyone's voices is heard equally. And as Dr. King would have said, let freedom ring. Thank you very much.
Until next week, we want to remind you that to follow everything Newswire LA, look us up on Facebook and Twitter at Newswire LA. And we'll see you back here next week. Stay tuned for more news on this Westlake Signal station.